Here we are, the infamous Mina Slave Castle and Slave Dungeon. And then if you go up to the right, you'll see the water. And that's pretty much if the slaves were being led on board. That's the last thing they saw when they looked back, was the Slave Castle.
And then I am your guide. Now, we are going to start a tour from this side, but before the tour begins, I have to give you a brief history of the castle. Ghana, they built 3 castles. This one is the first one. The name is St. George's Castle, or Mina Castle. And this castle was built by the Portuguese in 1482. There's another one in Accra, the capital city. We call it Osu Castle or Christiansborg Castle. Those from Denmark built that one in 1661. And also we have another one in Cape Coast. I don't know whether you've seen it. You've seen Cape Coast Castle? It's like about 20 minutes drive from here. That one was built by the British in 1665. And apart from the 3 castles, they built a lot of forts like this one. They built more than 40 along the coasts of this country, but some are not in good shape. So this is the aerial view of Mina. And when we get to the top of this one, you will see all these things. Yeah, this is a lagoon under the bridge. That is where it joins the sea. The name is Benya Lagoon. We call it Edina Benya. And the people here, the main occupation is fishing, especially the men. Aside fishing, some of them also mine salt mining. So this is where the salt is mined, this side, this side. There are lots behind the mountain. And also, when you were entering the castle, I don't know whether you saw this diagram. It is right in front of the castle. It's a compass, navigational compass for direction. So in the compass, you will see that we have 4 cardinal points: north, south, east, and west. And at the same time, it serves as a sundial. They put a stick at the center of it, and they use the shadow of the stick to tell the time. And you also walked on this bridge before you enter the castle. This moat will be filled with water, and this is a drawbridge. They can raise it up to close the entrance. So no one will get a chance to enter the castle for security reasons. And at the back of the castle, you see this one. This is where the big ships anchored, because the sea was very close. Today, it has receded. And there is a door here we call the door of no return. Small canoes like this took the slaves from this side to the big ships, off to America or Caribbean for plantations. But according to the history, the Portuguese were the Europeans who came to this place first. They came here 1471. They were here to trade and also to spread Christianity. When the Portuguese were coming, they brought guns, gunpowder, tobacco, alcoholic beverages, even mirror in exchange of gold from the locals. Though they were here for gold, ivory, spices, local textiles, and many more. But they were getting a lot of gold at that time. So they were interested in gold trade more than any other commodity. That is why the Portuguese named this place Mina, or El Mina, which means the mine. So El Mina is not the original name. Before the coming of the Portuguese, the original name used to be Anomansa. Anomansa. It's one of our languages. When you translate it into English, it's inexhaustible water. Anomansa. That is it, inexhaustible. And then when the Portuguese were doing that, this castle wasn't built. So initially, they were exchanging goods. And when they came, they were sleeping in their big ships on the sea. But they were under tent here, they erected some tents. So they were under tent here. So all the goods from here, straight to the ships. And as time went on, the trade was booming. So they needed places to sleep and also to store their goods. So the leader of the Portuguese went to see a chief. Because when they came, there was a chief around, even though it was a very small place. The name of the chief was Nana Kwamena Ansa. Nana Kwamena Ansa, that's the chief that they met. And the one who led the Portuguese here, the name of the leader was Don Diego de Azamuja. And according to the history, they went to the chief several times for this piece of land to be given. But initially, the chief was reluctant to give out the land, citing future cultural differences. But upon persuasions and assurances, the land was later given. And they built this castle, 1482. Now, when they built it, they were using all the rooms on the ground floor around as storerooms or warehouses. That's where they were keeping their goods. But when the slave trade started, the same rooms were converted into dungeons where human beings were held. Slave trade started in 1500 or in the early part of 16th century, and that began what is known as transatlantic slave trade. So the Portuguese, they spent 155 years because the Europeans were also attacking themselves. Even Dutch attacked the Portuguese 2 times, but they were unsuccessful. And all the 2 attacked from seaward, like this. The first attack was in 1595. The Portuguese defeated them.
The infamous door of no return. Going through it.
The sea was very close. There was a ladder down, so small canoes took them right from here to the big ships off to America or Caribbean for plantations. But according to the history, those who died at sea were more than those who died in the dungeons because of how they were packed in the ship. Even when slave trade was going on, there was somebody around. He was a captain of one of the slave ships. The name of the captain is John Newton. He gave an example that when a ship takes 700 slaves, either 1/3 or half died. Surprisingly, the captain of the slave ship later became a priest. And he wrote this song, Amazing Grace. And because a lot of them died, visitors laid wreath, you see at the corners of the floor, to remember those who died in the dungeons. There was a door at the side closed. Another door over there. Ventilation was from this one, and then the small one that you see at the end. Look, this is the original floor. Human beings were sleeping on the bed floor. And in this castle, there were no toilet facilities for the slaves. So they have to put containers in the dungeons for the slaves to ease themselves. So you can imagine those who were sick.
This is the opening through which the female slaves went through. The guy that's roped off so no one can go in there because it's such a fall. But this was the last passageway they would have come through. Overall view of the courtyard at the Mina Castle. The soldier quarters and the slave quarters at the bottom. The entrance to the governor's bedroom, where the African women were brought for the governor's pleasure, where he raped women. And the ones that were raped and became pregnant, they would set them free to return to their homes. But unfortunately, many didn't know how to get back to their homes.
The governor enjoyed 12 windows. Windows at 12. We have 8 windows here, 3 there, there's another one for 1 person. Now let's see the church.
The governor.
The governor didn't have a wife.
No, they didn't bring their wives. That's why they were raping the African women.
Well, sometimes if I had a wife here,
A local fishing village next to the Mina Castle. And I believe that's the Gulf of Guinea. You can see out there in the water, which I imagine ties into the Atlantic. The cannons that were used to defend the fort. A local fishing village again, right next to the castle at Mina. This is the entrance to Mina Castle, one that the Portuguese and the Dutch would come through. You see the drawbridge that they led up and down, and then you see the moat would have been filled with water that would have surrounded the castle to prevent any attack. So the cannons that are oriented toward the sea are for invaders. For example, when the Portuguese held it, they were defending it from the Dutch, so they would be pointing the cannons toward the water. There are also cannons on the other side that are pointed toward the villages. And according to the guide, those cannons were put there to put a fear in the locals. So cannons point to the water, invading Dutch. The ones pointing to the town is for to keep the locals under control. According to our guide, this is the drawbridge that the slaves can cross going into the castle, and this is a representative going back out of the castle, across the bridge and back into the motherland, away from the castle. We of the Cummings family has returned to the motherland. This is a fan made by someone from the Fanti tribe. This is a branch of the Akan.